And a very good evening, or good afternoon, or good morning, wherever you might be in the world. Thank you for joining us. This is the Pro Synth Network live show, episode 112, I think. Oh, we're rattling through those numbers. Welcome. As you can tell, it's a lovely kind of early summer's evening here with a little bit of glare off my face. I couldn't do anything about that, I'm sorry. So just have to wait till the sun goes down a little lower in the sky. But it's a lovely summer's evening here in the UK. And all of the people on the show are from the UK, or certainly in the UK, shall I say. We'll introduce you to those in just a moment. But as per usual, let's get the housekeeping out of the way. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. That'd be fantastic. Share it around amongst your friends and your family and anyone else that you might think it would be interested. And of course, if you like what we're doing, there's only one way to tell us, and that's to hit the like button, which is kind of around there, I think, underneath the video image. So that'd be fantastic if you can do that. If you want to keep us on the air, because why wouldn't you, we need your help and assistance in doing that. And so you can make a donation to the show. You can do that through our PayPal donation link, which is there on the screen, but also in the description below as a clickable item. Or you can use the Super Chat or Super Sticker service that YouTube provides. And if you're watching on Catch Up, there's this wonderful way that you can donate thanks. So there'll be a button underneath the video here after we've finished the live show. You can do the same as a Super Chat or a Super Sticker in that respect. And all of your donations are super gratefully received and are put to good use, certainly to keep us streaming, because this stuff doesn't come cheap or easy. Well, maybe it does, I don't know. So there you go. And of course, if you want to keep in touch with us, you've got Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, where our page is, and of course here on YouTube. The handles are the same all the way through. And last but not least, if you have a question for any of us on the show tonight, we'd really appreciate it if you could put a big capital Q at the front of it, and it just helps us pick it out and put it into the right slot so we can then ask or answer those questions as we go through. I think that's all the formalities out of the way. So let's get me off the screen, because my big fat face is looking probably a little bit clammy today. It's very warm here. Let's bring in, because probably just worth saying right now, Ben is not with us again this week, but Ben is home from the hospital and he's feeling much better. He's on the road to recovery. He sends his love to every single one of you and thanks you for all of your well wishes. And hopefully he'll be feeling up to coming back on pretty soon. So Ben, I know you're going to be watching. So hello, mate. I hope you're doing well, and take it easy. Get well soon. So, my other partner in crime, Mr. Kent Spong, is with us. How are you? Nice to see the official attire. Well done. Is he on mute? You're on mute. Hang on, let me take you off mute. I can't. You put it on yourself. There you go.
There you go. No, I just had 3 dogs having a fight with a ball.
Oh, okay.
I thought better mute this quick. Yes. So, yes. Hello.
Busy week?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Any interesting items passing across your workbench this week?
Well, that's degrees, isn't it? It depends on what you consider interesting, I suppose. 3 Jupiter 8s.
Just 3?
Oberheim digital sequencer.
Nice.
2 OBX8s, an OB8, Cat SRM2. And some TR-77 drum machine.
Oh, nice.
What else was there? And various lumps. Yeah.
Good. And otherwise, in good health. You're not going to go sick of me anytime soon, are you?
No, I've got a different vape oil.
Oh, what flavour is it this time?
Oh, it's still backy wacky flavour, but it's
okay.
It's a milder, less.
Oh, I see. So we're stepping
top.
down.
Yes,
so we're stepping down.
We're
Good.
Pulling it back.
Jolly good. Very glad
Hi,
to
Ben.
hear it. Oh, where's Ben? Where's Ben?
I don't know.
You're just. Oh, sorry.
I
I thought you'd seen him
into
pop
the
up
ether.
somewhere.
Hi, Ben.
Into the ether. Yes.
Yeah, I haven't said hi to him for a while.
Yeah. Well, it's hopefully he'll be back on soon. But we don't have we didn't have a scheduled special guest this week. That's because a lot of people are very busy, because like now that a lot of these lockdown restrictions have been relaxed and eased, and of course it is still out there, so do still take care, but lots of people are able to go out now and enjoy themselves. we're finding it kind of difficult to pin people down. They're all saying, yes, we'll come along, we'll do that, but it's just really tough to get into their schedules and get them to give us a couple of hours of their very precious time. However, one gentleman is currently doing that very thing, touring around the world. He's just finished a short stint of gigs in his native America. He's now over here in the UK and flying around Europe and coming back and doing all sorts of things over the next few months. And we are deeply honoured to have him come back at very short notice. The one and only Mr. Richard Hilton. Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Let's give you a round of applause. There we go. Where do we find you this evening? That looks like a very nice hotel.
Funny how your intro sounded kind of like, well, we couldn't find anybody as a guest this week. We
Not
drove
at
the
all.
streets of London until we came across this guy who might
Just
have
hanging
some
around.
stories to tell. He's on tour.
So, yes, you are, aren't you?
Yes, I am, and I'm well, thank you. And
Good.
I enjoy your show both when I'm on it and when I'm watching it, so I'm quite honored to be invited.
Awesome. No, it's an absolute honour to have you here. So you're here gigging with Chic. You're in the UK. You're in mainland Europe. You're going all over the place. And you were sort of recounting your schedule the other day.
Yeah.
And it's quite hectic.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. It's quite a bit, but it's all a blessing, and sharing in people's happiness is what it's all about.
Nice.
So, I'm so totally up for it.
Cool. There was a birthday party last night, wasn't it?
It was. A couple of band members' birthdays were celebrated.
Superb.
I attended briefly and escaped unscathed.
And just tell us where you were just the other night, somewhere down near Pudding Mill Lane in London.
I was invited by a dear friend, along with the rest of our band, to visit the new ABBA exposition. I can't recall the exact title of the ABBA exposition, but they have built a presentation space custom designed for this show, and it was a magnificent experience, and I am absolutely dead convinced that this is going to become not only a successful thing in a short-term basis here locally, but I expect could become a part of the overall tourist attraction vibe that is offered here in London to people. And I think it's that good and will be possibly that important.
And if I'm right in remembering, you actually got to meet one of the members of the band.
Yes, at least one. You know what?
Well,
I was looking at pictures afterwards and thinking, I think I met her there. So I've met at least one, and the one I know I met was Benny, who was the keyboard player, and was a very gracious man and very kind, and I was ebullient with congratulations because what they've created in this space is something that goes beyond anything else I've seen of its kind, and I'm not sure there is anything of its kind.
Yeah.
Because it embodies so many different, very, very precisely synchronized aspects of technology, combining to make the entire space feel like one giant three-dimensional performance. And it's really quite amazing.
Sounds awesome. And I was very lucky to get some tickets, I think, for the second week in July, so I'm really looking forward to that. Reading some of the reviews this morning, because yesterday was the premiere, the opening, and they're all said exactly what you have said, and many have said this is the sign of things to come. They're done so well.
One of my fellow band members said, "Well, that's it for us."
Oh, I do hope not. But I mean, certainly when it comes to bands that can't perform together anymore or won't perform together anymore, but maybe want to, do something like this and give the fans an experience, then this is clearly an option.
Well, apparently there was a tremendous amount of participation on the part of the ABBA members in the preparation for what we're seeing in this show, even though we're not seeing them per se.
Yeah, because they've all been motion captured, haven't they? And then
apparently superimposed upon some younger people model that makes them all spry and athletic. It's a whole amazing process that went into just that aspect of it, and that is only one small part of what the whole ends up being.
Mm-hmm.
It's there's a few hundred speakers in the room.
Wow.
For example, there's all kinds of light routing that you're not aware of that shows up at various portions of the show.
Nice.
There's live musicians on stage that
Mhm.
also help connect. And as I was saying on the show last night, that the connection, the edge of there's a screen, okay, upon which some of this is either projected or, I don't know, it's seemingly magically three-dimensional. But at the end, there's no, you can't distinguish where any backgrounds end and the room begins.
Right.
When you're sitting, at least where I was sitting, and I did have an opportunity to walk up front, but it was really amazing.
Wow, sounds amazing. Well, yeah, I cannot wait to go and see them. My wife is particularly excited. So yeah, looking forward to that. Thank you for that lowdown, that early kind of review. Brilliant stuff. I have to apologise, Rich. I know that my email to you earlier on with topics may have got to you rather late. So feel free to, participate as much as you feel comfortable in doing, which I'm sure you will be fine. But we've got a bunch of new stuff to talk about, and so we should. But before I do, I just want to say thank you to BG Ollie in the chat for a beer or a replacement bot. €5, thank you very much, and £5 from John Simpson for the Uncle Ben Simpson Recovery Fund. I'm sure we'll put that to good use and have him on the mend very, very soon. So thank you guys for that. Much appreciated. And we will put that to good use. Right. So after that very jovial opening to the show, I'm very sorry. I'm going to have to kind of dampen the mood. But let's do this because this is very important, certainly on a personal level to myself. The Depeche Mode member Andy Fletcher passed away suddenly yesterday. And it has taken the world by surprise. There's been obviously no news on any details, and we wouldn't expect it this soon in the process. But the news was broken by the rest of the band, who said they're shocked and filled with overwhelming sadness with the untimely passing of their friend. And the showbiz world, the music world, has been outpouring lots of messages of bewilderment and surprise and shock, and lots of nice tales of Andy, who was, by all accounts, this jovial, friendly, very warm, very loving man, and who was essentially the glue that kept the band together over the years, being a founding member and often referred to by Dave and Mark themselves as being the guy that they called him the tiebreaker, I think, because when there were arguments, he would come in and say, right, I think we should do this, and the band would respect that and they would do it. He was a phenomenal man in a phenomenal band who are certainly in this country, I feel, hugely underappreciated in their home country, which is just weird. I know there's lots of Depeche Mode fans here in this country, but when you see the magnitude of support they have around the world, it pales into comparison. But yeah, it's a really, really sad time. Kent, any thoughts on Andy Fletcher and his passing? Any stories or tales to tell?
Oh, it's another one of those sort of like numb.
Yeah.
It's like, give me time to get over Vangelis, mate.
Yeah. It's
now Andy and Ray Liotta
and Alan White as well from
White,
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, funny enough, I was talking to Tiny today. He said he's setting up a rig for Yes, and he didn't know. And I told him,
Really?
I said, yeah, well, what about that? And he's gone, has he? I went, yeah. He goes, oh, wow, when did that happen? I said, I seen yesterday. It's sort of like bang, 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 isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's all like, it's just the same kind of name, and then everything underneath of like no shit and all the rest of it. Yeah.
Something I struggled with today was I was trying to think of how one might pay tribute to Fletch, and I mean this with the utmost respect, because I know the guy is part of one of the most successful bands ever, regardless of genre, regardless of the technology they used or didn't use or whatever. Depeche Mode are huge. I mean, they still sell millions of albums and millions of concert tickets every time they go on tour. But when somebody of, say, Vangelis' stature passes, we can flick through a whole library of content, and we can maybe share a video and say, this was my favourite Vangelis moment, this was my favourite Vangelis gig. When Alan White passed, of course, he passed the same day, you can flick through any number of tracks where you can say, that's Alan White playing on the drums. With Fletch, you couldn't do that, not because of anything other than he was this quiet component of a band where he didn't stand out, and I don't think he ever wanted to stand out. He just had his job, and he did his job. And so really the only way you can pay respect is to play anything by Depeche Mode, because he had been involved in that. And I've been watching live clips of him, and I've seen Depeche Mode live a number of times, and Fletch is always great entertainment, particularly on the last tour when the band acknowledged that kind of unspoken joke about what is Fletcher's role in the band, and can he really play, or is he just an accountant stroke manager? And the band acknowledged that in a very fun way, and Fletch went along with it. It was really quite a touching moment. But I've been struggling to kind of pinpoint something I could say, yeah, that's a Fletch moment, apart from his sort of stage performances. But Rich, any thoughts on Fletch passing, on Depeche Mode in general? I mean, do you think Depeche Mode can survive the loss of this quite integral member of the band? Oh, everyone take a drink. He's on mute.
Oh, any excuse.
Any excuse, yeah. I didn't tell him. I could see he was on mute. I didn't tell him.
I'm barely qualified to comment on Depeche Mode. It never really had a lot of depth of importance and feeling in my life. But yet what I heard sounded pretty good to me. I know who was in the band, some very groundbreaking and important synthesists involved. And I can understand. Now, I don't know that much about this gentleman, and may he rest in peace. I've listened to you guys talking, people much more knowledgeable about them than me, talking about his role. And you made some comments just now about people who take support roles who may not be instantly identifiable based on their contributions in those roles. And that is something I can talk about. As it relates to their band, you had 2 or 3 other notable, strong personalities as synthesists involved in the creation of this music.
Indeed.
And in order to have, let's say it was a quartet, if I understand correctly, as it started out. You can't have a 4-way shouting match. Somebody has to be providing foundation upon which other people's things stand, the shoulders upon which they stand, if you know what I mean. So I don't know exactly how that relates in Depeche Mode, but I can talk a little bit about this because this is my role in Chic to a significant degree. My work at its best is largely invisible because it's not intended to draw attention to itself or to be a featured thing most of the time. It is generally providing part of the support, the basis upon which the exciting stuff, which in Chic music is guitar, bass, and drums, can take place. So properly executing that role involves not being particularly, hey, it's me, that guy. And you need people in a band who are aware of their roles and filling the space that they need to fill in order for the band to be most effective. And that's not always at the top level of who's shouting loudest. So I don't know this Fletcher gentleman work, and I heard people last night alternately referring to him as an accountant and such. But if his role in the band was not to be the most forward and obvious member, I still doesn't detract for me in any way from the importance of his contribution.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that very well said. And I think, Mark and and Dave have both gone on record and said, he was the glue. He held us together. He was the one that, after a couple of years off, would get us back into a studio, talking about making an album, then doing a tour. He would be the guy that motivated that, and I think that's where he kind of got the accountant stroke unofficial manager moniker from. And I think Fletch kind of happily took that on, because he did it so well, and having been a founder member, knew these people from a very early age and knew exactly how to manage them and get the best out of them. And he contributed in his own way, and we can debate the magnitude of that, whether it was musical or technical or managerial. His influence was huge, and is now sadly gone. And there are people talking about, will Depeche Mode carry on now, because that glue has gone. And I think I was certainly, up until tea time today, I was thinking, I don't think they will. And then I saw an interview on TV just before I came up here, a friend of Fletch saying, I think the band will carry on, because the last thing Fletch would have wanted was for them to crumble simply because he passed away. So it's a big loss. So I've been a fan of Depeche Mode since day one. I remember when first hearing them and just loving that sound and that look. I've been sort of trying to pick out some nice pictures. Certainly, more recent pictures here of Andy playing on the Global Spirit tour, and again, you can see he's just so into it, and nice little selection of keys there. Of course, he was a member of this amazing band who have been so massive. I mean, just absolutely massive. I think if you look at the numbers, you'll still, even if you're a Depeche Mode fan, you're still blown away at the amount of success and impact and influence that they've had over the years. And there's a young Andy there, and I think I also want to finish with this picture because I think it's a very cool picture. He was a handsome chap, a very talented guy, and sadly no longer with us and will be greatly missed. So there we go. Now, can people please stop dying? Because this week has been...
Can I make one more comment about this?
Of course, yeah.
Not to be underestimated is the social and spiritual effect of somebody's participation in a production process that may not be down to notable feats of virtuosity on a particular instrument. Mm-hmm. Another great example of that would be Nick Rhodes, who is not at all misled about his own keyboard skills and is not exactly Art Tatum, but nevertheless contributes not only positive keyboard parts, but is in many ways the member of that band with the most big picture vision of where anything is going at any particular time, though they all do, and they're all really astute. But Nick, in particular, I find to be a big picture guy. And you need a guy like that to be the glue that brings together all of these other extremely talented elements and focuses it in a particular direction.
Yeah.
And so perhaps, just by the looks of those pictures, that his social role with the others was one of his most important contributions to making the space in which that kind of wonderful music could take place.
Yeah, no, I think that's very well put, and I think very, very appropriate. Andy Fletcher, you will be missed, but your music will always live on, and we thank you for that. So let's move on to some happier things. New gear. Let's talk about some new gear. This came out of our friends Cherry Audio's factory just the other day. Let's just play a quick demo of this. The Lowdown bass synthesizer from Cherry Audio is a mere $25, available in all formats and with a standalone version as well. It, of course, is based on a Moog Taurus. I'm not entirely sure which version it's based on. I'm not very familiar with them, but the sound is quite unmistakable. It's off the One, is it? Oh, thank you, Ken. Lovely. It's quite an unmistakable sound, and there's been a lot of positive stuff, not least about the fact you can change the colour of the carpet under the pedals. I like that. That's a nice little touch.
I can't believe that. I think this is like changing your WhatsApp wallpaper. It's a feature.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what can you do with a fairly simple piece of equipment, I guess. We'll have to speak to Mitchell about it, because I'm sure that was Mitchell probably might have been his idea, or whether he probably implemented it. But so do we need a Taurus clone of sorts? Do we need a bass pedal synthesizer in our libraries? I mean, it's only $25 and it does have that sound. What do you think, Rich?
I don't.
No,
I didn't need the pedals either. It was never a very good. It was never a very good synthesizer. The best thing about it was it made foot pedals available to Michael Rutherford, who was using something else previously, while he was playing all those 12-string guitar parts. And that was really its most notable and probably its most effective musical usage. But it wasn't that much of a synth. And so, absent the operating of the thing as a set of foot pedals, any appeal it may have had, and it wasn't much to begin with, is gone for me. Not taking anything away from undoubtedly the magnificent circuit modeling that they've done and everything else. It's not like when I'm sitting at home in a studio full of soft and perhaps hard synthesizers that I'm going to have that much trouble figuring out something that can do a decent bass sound. So this was a product of accommodation that allowed this technology to be extended to a certain class of people who would otherwise not have been able to employ it.
Yeah.
But as a virtual set of pedals, it doesn't carry much romance for me. Please forgive me, guys.
Not at all.
Who made this thing? Cherry Audio?
Cherry Audio, yes.
Forgive me, guys. But much like the ARP Omni, I wasn't interested in it then, and I'm not interested in it now.
That's fair enough. No, absolutely. Like you say, I mean, it's had some notable users, of course. Mike Rutherford from Genesis, Rush, yes, U2, The Police. Was it Invisible Sun, I think, that was used on. It's got a fairly distinctive sound that if you're after that particular sound, this is an easy way and a very affordable way to get hold of it. Kent, have you had much experience with the hardware version? Can you speak to how well this is kind of doing it?
Oh, yes. I've worked with many a hardware one.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, I think let's have a quick look here. I don't know if probably... yeah, for some reason it doesn't work. Beautifully modelled then. Perfectly modelled, because you go to try it out and it doesn't do anything, which is what the original ones did. So there you go. No, this was a groundbreaking synth, because this allowed the backing dancers to also join in on stage. Admittedly, bass pedals as a keyboard, played via a keyboard, authenticity out the window, because you can play it really quickly. You can't play Tauruses very quickly, so you'd have to discipline yourself to be able to just go one note here and there, sort of thing. The sound modelling, very, very good. Not to detract anything from Cherry Audio, but probably not one of the most difficult things to model.
Sure.
But they've done a really, really good job of it, and I applaud their choices of a carpet, particularly the purple one that it fires up with, because it reminds me of that god-awful carpet we used to have in the front room in the 70s.
Yeah.
That smelt of, I don't know what it smelled of. It wasn't nice.
And was it sticky as well?
Yeah, because Dad had a bar in there, and everybody was spilling their drinks between the bar and the settee, and the gold lame wallpaper, and it's like, oh God. Still,
there.
yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah.
I like the way the Taurus preset has been renamed Bull. For obvious reasons.
Indeed.
Which I thought was quite clever. But yeah, it's very well modelled.
Yeah.
Whether it fits into everybody's setup, not so much.
Exactly. And even if
it's available,
think,
it's there.
Yeah. If you think it might and then it doesn't, it's only $25 at the moment. It's down from $39, the original price, and you can actually download a 30-day demo of it. One gentleman that I was speaking to earlier on who seems to like this a lot wants to join us on the show. Let's everybody welcome Mr. Andrew Longhurst.
Headphone break.
Who's your barber these days?
I think he's making pies.
Yes, quite.
You know, just a guess.
Share it around.
Well, Chaz.
Yeah.
Have you met Mr. Hilton before?
Of course, we've met
Yes.
in one of Kent's many meanderings. How are you?
Cheers,
How are you, Hilton?
Great,
Mr.
thank
Hilton?
you, sir. It's good to hear your voice.
Meandering.
You say that now. You say that now.
Now, Andrew, you like this, don't you?
Well, it's a curious one. I understand Richard's take on this as well, which is, you know, it wasn't necessarily something that everyone used. But I've been using Taurus bass pedals occasionally for years, and whenever I need one, I really need one because it does have. It's one of those sounds that just sits in a mix when you need it. And I posted something about rather like bass trombones. If you're doing an orchestral thing, those things when you bring them in, they rattle the room. You don't need them for every composition, but when you do, gosh, you know. And it's kind of like that. That's how Genesis use them, and a few others, the Police, occasionally. And it has a sound that does work. You can get close to it with all sorts of other things, but nothing quite has that. The phase coherent richness at the bottom end, and I love them. I wouldn't go and buy another set now, but I'm certainly getting this plug-in because it's the kind of sound I love to use from time to time.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. Nice one. Personally, I will be getting this. I haven't got it yet, but I will be getting this, and just simply because it's $25 for a particular sound. I don't think that's too awful to pay. And Cherry Audio do some very fine work. So, and I believe their marketing guy is in the chat. So trust me, we're not saying anything because he's there. But no, they have been very good to us, and of course we've had Mitchell and Dan on the show already. Mitchell twice. They're very good friends, and they make some really good stuff. So well done on this release, and go and fill your boots now. I know there's plenty more coming down the line from Cherry Audio, so they do. Just somebody made a comment the other day. We were talking about Arturia's V Collection 9, and somebody said, "You know what? You've kind of got a Cherry Audio collection now. The amount of synthesizers, and they're all good little synths, and it's a lot less money." So it's great. There's something for everyone, which is always good. So I got. Let's see. I'm going to tell you what I've been excited about now. And
hey, Ben. Excuse me.
Oh yeah.
Ben rang in.
Cool. Oh yes, there he is, Ben. Hello,
Mr. Simpson.
Glad you could join us from your sickbed. Hope you're feeling well. Good on you, mate. So let's do this now. I saw this pop up on a couple of the synth news channels the other day, and then literally an hour or so before we came on air, they released their first demonstration video, and it's by a guy who goes by the name of J3PO. I forget his full name. I do apologise, but he's been responsible for some really good demonstrations and sound sets for a lot of new synthesizers that have been coming out of late. And this one, I had absolutely no idea that it was a thing until, say, just a few days ago. This is from a new company run by somebody who used to work for UDO. So they've got some experience under their belt. This is the Third Wave from Groove Synthesis. Have a listen to this demo. We're not going to play it all, but it sounds stunning. based on? Can you tell?
Chase bit one.
Julian Pollock, that's his name. Julian Pollock. Quite an appropriate tone given the passing of Andy Fletcher, I thought, as well. It's very Depeche Mode-like. But it can also do lots of other things. This sound really got me. There we go. We'll stop there. It's about 5.5 minute video. And say I got to that patch, and I was like, yeah, take my money, because that sounds really, really nice. And I'm a massive PPG fan. I don't own one because I don't have the space or the money to own the real thing. And I've been looking for something, and I've got the software version, which I'm told by experienced PPG users that it sounds very, very close to the original, but this looks amazing. And it's from a company we haven't heard from before. So the company's name is Groove Synthesis, and this is a 24 voice polyphonic 4-part multi-timbral wavetable synth with analog filters. Basically, they claim it's like having 4 independent 6-voice synthesizers at your fingertips. Each of the 3 oscillators per voice can be classic PPG era wavetable, a modern high resolution wavetable, or an analog wave shape. Create up to 32 custom wavetables of your own with the Third Wave's Wavemaker tool, which features sample to wavetable capability. Linear FM, 6-stage wave envelope per oscillator, 4 envelopes, 4 LFOs with delay, dual effects per part, pattern song-based sequencer per part, and an easy-to-use 16-slot mod matrix. Sounds like a lot of synth. There's no price on this yet and no availability, and that's all the information we have.
It's going to be expensive.
Yeah, it sounds expensive just from those words, but it sounds. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm sold on this. I'm starting to save money. Who wants to go?
Well, wavetable.
Yeah.
Okay. Not a massive shortage of it in here.
True.
And not a PPG to be seen. However, that said, it's about time I had something that was blue. So
Good point.
I'm going to get it because it's blue.
Yeah.
There you go.
Nice one. Mr. Longhurst, let's go to you, sir.
I had one of the first waves that came into the country, into the UK. I had the Wave 2 when it arrived, and it was terribly crunchy, troublesome, perplexing, but I loved it. And I loved it not because it did the wave thing. The wave thing was kind of what everyone focused on. Wavetable synthesis was something people kind of forgot that you can just leave one wave up, find a waveform you like, and then play around with it. You know, may have 2 of them up and use the rest of it like a normal synth. It rocked. It rocked. It had some crunchiness, some of the really attacky sounds. So I think with this one, what I like about this, it sounds really analog, and it sounds like you don't need to do the whole, skipping through a wavetable for every single sound.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to have that hollow digital sound all the way through. This is really rich. I like it a lot. I don't know if I'd buy it. It depends how much it comes out for.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a good thing. It's a good thing, and we know that a certain company who shall remain nameless is also bringing out their own version.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be competition. I have to say, having seen this, I like this. Having compared the 2 sort of demos that are available, I prefer the sound of this a bit like with the same company's version of a certain well-known synthesizer by Mr. Tom Oberheim. I've listened to both sets of demos, as it were, the ones that I've seen. Tom's just sounds huge.
Yeah.
You know, so much richer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Richard? Were you a PPG Wave user back in the day?
I did not have a particular relationship with PPG instruments. I was certainly aware of them, and I understood what they did, and they sort of introduced me to the concept of wavetable synthesis. And I understand exactly what Andrew means when he talks about them being crunchy. And I think I even heard some of that in what we just heard as that demo.
Mm.
Yeah.
But what I can say is this guy, Julian Pollock, is that his name?
Yep.
He plays terrific synthesizer demos.
Yes.
He always plays pieces of music that are extremely appropriate to the sound he's using.
Yeah.
And he's got a very strong talent for making instruments sound great. And that's not to take anything away from the synthesizer or anything, but I have been consistently blown away by the way this guy plays synthesizer in demos.
Absolutely. He's getting a very good reputation amongst the manufacturers for doing demos and doing sound design, not sort of like post-release, but for factory release as well. So he's definitely, he's a name to watch out.
There is that thing, though, isn't there, where you see the demo done by someone, and it used to be that often synths were bought because you saw someone playing something and it sounded amazing, and then you bought it as a newbie. You can hit the odd black note, you know. And then you get it, you go, why doesn't it sound like that for me? And it's, now you need to learn to play, you know.
Yes, indeed. Well, somebody, I think, Andrew, you mentioned that a certain other company were doing a PPG based synthesizer, and funnily enough, now do you remember a week or two ago when the OBX8 dropped? A few days later, Behringer came along and put their demos of their UBX8 or whatever it's called, almost as if to say, hey, look, we're here too, and we're doing something like this. Well, funnily enough, after Groove Synthesis made some teaser announcements on the internet, Behringer popped up with this, this is Herman Lieb, who has been Herman Sieb, sorry. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I'm sure Robert in the chat will correct me if I'm wrong, or even Andrew. They've been working on their own PPG version, and there it is. You can see it. It's a small 49-key keyboard as opposed to the larger original one that you see below there. But Herman was involved, of course, with the original development of the original PPG back in the day, and so he's been drafted in to come up with their version, and he seems to believe that it's very, very good indeed. So we're going to have some competition out there, although we've not heard the Behringer version. And they also have promised, this was something that I was very keen to find out, and they have confirmed this pretty much in the blurb. Let me just shut this down. So there was a whole spiel here, but towards the end it mentions that, here we go, these are my first impressions on a new Blue Machine in my arsenal. Of course, a Wave Term app is planned in collaboration with Behringer when the unit is ready for production. Now, of course, Wave Term, the Wave Term unit allowed you to use samples with the PPG Wave, and so you could load in stuff, and it made it a very versatile thing. And it looks like they're addressing it. So it's going to be an interesting time for anybody that's into that style of synthesis.
What I find really odd about this is, I think what he actually says, I think the impression I get is he says that it sounds very like the original.
Yeah.
And I think what this other one that we've just seen does, the other one, is it's not trying to be the original, it's trying to take the spirit of that and then go that extra step.
Yeah.
Wave Term at the time was a very unique thing, and it was doing it at the same time as the Fair. It was kind of that time.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm not quite sure what it will bring to the table that isn't already available in a lot of other platforms already. So I'm kind of, and I think it looks, the Behringer version, I have to say, looks bloody awful. It looks like a toy. And would I have that? And the answer is no, because I think it would break in 5 minutes. I couldn't take it out on the roads. It's an odd one. It's an odd one because I'm not actually that, I know people slate Behringer. They've done some decent things, but this one definitely not. It's a bit like the OBX. It seemed like a good idea until we saw what Tom had done.
Yeah.
And heard what Tom had done, and suddenly you go, oh right, that's what a real one should sound like. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's an interesting time, and again, there's something for everyone, because I think Behringer have been saying that their version is going to be about $499, which of course is incredibly affordable for a synth like that, and as we've all alluded to, the groove synthesis model, certainly from its specification sheet so far and the sound that we've seen, is probably going to be a bit more than $499. It would be interesting if it wasn't, but I think we're looking at maybe an extra digit before the decimal point. But an interesting time for PPG Wave stuff. And, I've got an Argon 8, which I think does a very good job of wavetable synthesis, and you can get some very PPG-esque stuff out of that, and that's, £500. And it's a really well-made synthesizer as well. So there's something for everyone definitely there. But
so Robbie,
yeah,
if I may, just one more thing. The thing that interested me the most about the description of this new instrument, the third wave instrument, is the fact that in addition to the original PPG wavetables, they have provided what they call a modern set of wavetables from which one can work.
Yeah.
And that is where I think most of the interest would lie for me, is there. Yeah. Not so much in reproducing what had been done, because wavetable synthesis kind of went forward a long way from PPG after PPG sort of made it ubiquitous in the sound world. There came to be a whole lot of them, most notably Prophet VS and subsequently the Korg Wave Station. But so where it's likely to break some ground is what interests me.
Definitely. Well, we're going to keep an eye on the groove synthesis offering. There's no further information other than that demonstration and a couple of pictures on Instagram. Their website is simply groovesynthesis.com, and it just has a small or a picture of the synth with arriving in 2022. So we've got 6 months or so. Hopefully we'll see. I wonder if it'll be at NAMM. That might be interesting. It might be at NAMM in what's that? Well, next week, isn't it? I think. So yeah. Good stuff. Right, what should we do now? Here we go. Here's a contentious issue, if we ever want one. The subscription model has now leapt across the channel to France, and our friends over at UVI have now decided to offer all of their products under one subscription. You can pay monthly or you can pay annually, and they call it the Sonicpass. So it's $24 or 24 euros a month, which is a little bit more than some of the other subscription models out there. But there is a ton of stuff. There is so much more stuff. There's over 1,000 instruments and effects plugins in here. You get access to the entire UVI product line, from everything from all of their big sample-based libraries to Falcon 2 and all the effects such as Thorus and Spark Verb and everything, and Rotary. It's all there. $24 a month or $240 a year, which basically gets you 2 months free. I think they're carrying on the existing model of you just buying what you want and then paying upgrades when you want them. But for the $24 a month, you're getting everything, and there is a lot of stuff. So I think they can more than justify the extra few dollars a month. But of course, it all boils down to, do you want to go down the route of subscription? And that's a point of contention for a lot of people. I do subscribe to some stuff, and I'm quite happy to carry on doing that. But do I want to subscribe to something else now? I don't know. So, I don't know. Richard, how do you feel about subscription and stuff? Because you do like UVI stuff. You're quite a big fan of them, if I'm not mistaken.
I am a fan of their software, and quite a bit of it, I should say. I don't think they hit them all out of the park, but they hit a lot of them out of the park. And the Falcon is a tremendous synthesizer platform. And their pianos are nice. Their sampled pianos are nice. This is a very, very tempting thing for a producer to do, because they cover almost all of the bases incredibly well. And given the broad range of things that they do well, for example, they have a sort of something that's, I don't know, it's called Meteor, and its equivalent is known as Rise and Hit, but it's got like build-up sounds and impact sounds that you can customize to such a ridiculous degree. I mean, they have a program called Rotary, which does nothing more than rotary speaker simulation, but it is the most variable of all of them and sounds great just, if you want to emulate a normal Leslie speaker. They've got gillions and gillions of synthesizers sampled. I mean, it's just, their synth anthologies are massive. And so it's just a tremendous amount of content, and much of it is great, or pretty much all of it is at least good or really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody actually raised a very good point in the chat, and I hadn't thought about this. This was Sam Lowry. What about peeps who already have all of those, or a lot of those products, or most of them? And you've already... but you've already spent, I mean, some of their stuff is maybe a couple of hundred, maybe $200 or $300, and maybe you've got half a dozen of them. So you've spent, over 1,000 already. Now they're asking you to, I mean, I don't know. There probably are people out there who've got everything already.
No, I don't have to subscribe to them now. My deal remains the same.
Yeah. But do you don't? What I think we're alluding to is that there's no kind of discount offered for those who've already paid for the full versions, beforehand. So if you've invested maybe $1,500 already in stuff,
point. Yeah. Well, but then you have to have certain thresholds, because you can't have purchased one $39 plugin and expect to get a discounted version of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's not unreasonable for them to offer some kind of discount to people who own 3 or more of their products. Or whatever,
just like an introductory discount, maybe, or something.
However they want to deal with it, but that's not an unreasonable idea at all.
But then there's so much stuff in there that I doubt very much if everyone's got there are that many people who've got everything, and you're getting so much more for your $24 a month or $240 a year that I think it probably kind of negates that. I don't know. Kent. You're slowly getting into software collections. You got V Collection the other week. Are you regretting that decision now and thinking, oh, maybe I should have gone with the UVI one, or is it something else?
No. I like collections. I am not a fan of subscriptions. I must admit, because even when you sent me the link and when I had a look at it, and I read it as £24 monthly or £240 annually. And I think I was, and I think it was probably a Freudian slip. Because I see. It depends on the individual, but with me, if I'm renting something, my hindbrain has a little voice in it going, "Well, you better be using it. Then you're paying for this. Use it. Use it now. Use it in this thing. I don't want to use that. No, use it because you're paying for it." And I think that's what I don't like about subscription, really.
Yeah, no, I get it. One of the other things about this, their particular offering, is that it is $24 a month or $240 a year, but you can pause at any time. So if you feel like you want a whole bunch of this stuff for a project, maybe that project lasts 3 months, you rent it for $24 a month, so you've invested $72. And then you think, well, I'm not going to use anything, or I haven't been using it for a couple of months and I don't see me using it for a few months. I'll pause my subscription, and when I want to start using it again, I restart it and carry on using it. Maybe you've worked on a project and you want to recall that project sometime later, you can pause in between. So there is some flexibility in there, and I think we're still getting to the point where we're fine-tuning the subscription model. It's clearly the way everything's going, whether it's in this industry or other industries. So now we've got to try and shape the subscription model to work not only for the providers and the developers, but also for the customers in a much more flexible way. And I think that's certainly one step towards. I don't think you can do that with anything else. Certainly not as simply as UVI doing. Andrew, your thoughts on this?
It's it's something. I'm an admin for a group, a private Facebook group, which is aimed at Prem Pro editors. We have 30,000 people subscribing. It's not, there's no cat pictures or PC versus Mac wars, none of that shit. It's purely about.
It can't be a good group then, can it?
But we don't.
Sounds boring.
Yeah,
it works really well, and for people that need it, and we're talking really serious high-end people, and we talk to Adobe all the time because of it, because it's such a good resource for professional feedback. One of the biggest issues that was raised when I first started getting involved with this some years back, it came up every day almost, or every week, was subscriptions. Why do I have to pay a subscription? Why? Yeah. And we also had the same thing. I've seen the same thing with sound libraries, audio libraries, audio network, those kind of guys. Same thing with video libraries, and with software, of course. So for me, and I think what UVI have done with this is very clever. They haven't said that's it. They've said we are making this available. And guess what? If you already own stuff, you don't have to buy it.
Yeah,
you don't have to pay that. You can just work with the stuff you've got. But and I think this is where it gets kind of interesting. As a professional, as a video professional or an audio professional, the subscriptions I have are freaking brilliant, because guess what? I use less than 0.1% of any of them in a year. But when I need them now. And it's costing me, it might be costing me $25 a month for this one, $50 a month for another, and so on. And so it's a cost of business. Yeah. By the time I add up all the subscriptions I have on a monthly thing, it's less than a day's chargeable time for me as a business. But that means that I can react really quickly. If someone says, I want such and such, I want to do this thing, or I need this particular sound effect. Richard alluded to the builds and the reverse swooshes and things that UVI have. I've used those. They're great. They're really, really good. If you're cutting video, having that kind of thing to get you to a point is really useful. And having the rotary Leslies, that's a great effect. Any of those things, any one of these is worth the money when you get it. But knowing that it's always there as a professional, as a business cost, I don't even think about it. I swallow it, I bite it, and I it's always available to me. The video libraries, the Adobe subscription. I don't use all of the Adobe Creative Cloud stuff. But I do use a fair amount of it, and tangentially, just from time to time, I'll dip in. But the fact that it's always there and it always works and it's always supported, so I get the latest versions of everything, on all the different operating systems, which is the other thing, and all the different platforms. That's gold. That takes a lot to do, and so I understand people not wanting, having a problem with the subscription system, because guess what? We've got hardware. When I buy it, that's it. It doesn't magically upgrade every week.
Yeah, exactly.
It's what it is. I can put a new card in or whatever. But so I understand people doing that. I think the area where the whole industry, the whole of the software industry needs to catch up is, how do you get on board people who aren't doing this professionally but are still creatives, or are doing it semi-professionally and don't have the kind of budgets that we do to lay off as a business expense. It's coming out of their income. So how do you do that? Which is, in other words, how do you build up that base of semi-pros that will eventually become professional and pay full price for all your products? How do you do that? I think Steinberg got that right in the late 90s going into the 2000s, where they knew people were doing hooky, pirated versions of everything they did. But when they started going professional, these people, they had to get a proper version just to get the support and get the latest feature set that someone was asking for. So they kind of put up with that. That's kind of missing at the moment. And I'm not suggesting that people should pirate, because I think that's, it's someone's put time and money into these things, and people should be rewarded for it. If you like it, you should pay for it. But there needs to be some thinking about how you coattail and provide access to these things to non-professionals doing this stuff. And that's a tricky one. That's a tricky one.
Absolutely.
Well,
point. Oh,
I'm sorry, Robbie.
No, go ahead.
One other aspect, just to play devil's advocate for a second on this subject, is you can, rather than purchase everything all the time, you can sign up for a month, use the heck out of something, print it, and then it goes away. You can cancel the subscription. So
Absolutely.
You actually don't have to pay to maintain those things that we keep in our toolkit just in case at some point we're going to need them. You don't have to have them there all the time. There is a certain set of things I want in there all the time. Like these days, my console emulations are chief among them, and certain ambiances and things like that, certain go-to stuff that I use all the time. And quite a few of the isotope things too. But these things like, if you don't need a rotary speaker this week, fine, rent it the day you need it if that's how you want to approach that particular thing.
Which by the way, Richard, is exactly what we used to do. We used to rent stuff. We used to ring up the hire company and bring in the Emu 2 or the Prophet 5 or the CS80, because guess what? We couldn't afford to buy one full time, but if we were doing a session and we needed it, we rented it for a day.
Yeah.
Right. So this subscription model, as much as it's sort of distasteful to us on some or maybe perhaps many levels, does offer the advantage that if I happen to need, what is it, an Eventide, the Eventide just came out with a new H3000 model that does more than the original did. And if I happen to need that, but I don't necessarily need to own it, I can use it for $25. And next month I don't have to use it for $25 if I don't want to.
Yeah. Also worth pointing out that you get 3 activation points with your subscription, so you can have it on 3 separate machines.
Yeah.
So if you're working, in the studio environment, 3 of you can have it going. If you've got a desktop, a laptop, you can cover your bases with that as well. So you get 3 activation points. And I believe it's still iLock protected because UVI use iLock. So I guess, I don't know how the whole subscription thing works. I know with Rolling Cloud, it dials in like every 30 days to check. I don't know what UVI are doing here because I haven't got this. But yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting thing.
Can you not authorize UVI to a machine? I think you can.
Yeah, you can. You can either do the iLock key or the iLock software, which is then installed on your machine.
Which is on your machine.
Yeah, so you can do it on, because with my current UVI stuff, I've got the, you can see that I've got the iLock here on my desktop, but on my laptop, it's authorized to the machine itself, so I don't have to worry about having a dongle in my laptop. It's all there. David Serchek, welcome, sir. How's Cleo? The noisiest cat on the internet. He says, I have no issue with subscriptions as I understand the importance for a constant revenue stream to keep the talent. And that's another thing about subscriptions. It does give developers a bit more certainty. And, I certainly, I think a lot of people have been mentioning in the chat that they use Adobe Creative Cloud at work, and I use some subscription stuff at work, and it always means that my tools are always being constantly fixed and updated. If there's a little thing, they will do it. They'll just roll out a little update here and there. It's all silent. It's all done in the background. So it's very useful from that aspect as well. So yes. Also, I just wanted to quickly mention Wagyu for 5 chuffs. Thank you very much indeed. That was, you can tell we were talking about Behringer there. Very true. Always welcome. Thank you very much, sir. Always provides a giggle.
Oh, yeah.
So the UVI Sonicpass, it's available now. It's $24 or €24 a month, or if you do it annually, it's $240 for the year, either in dollars or euros. And that gets you the entire library, which is over 1,000 instruments, 30,000 plus presets, 1.5 million samples all in with that stuff. It's a hefty chunk of stuff. Right, so that's that. What do we do next? Yes, our friends at Spitfire Audio. They've only gone and released another Labs, and this one's quite an interesting one. It's called Harmonic. What's it called? Harmonic Flights. Let's have a listen to the demonstration of this one. Where are we? Here we go.
Add movement and realism to your scores with these gritty, evolving string textures. Performed on double bass by me, Sage Reynolds. These high harmonics have been pitch shifted and processed to create deeply atmospheric sounds. Perfect for drama, fantasy, or sci-fi. This is what it sounds like. And because creativity shouldn't be complicated, we've made it into this. And best of all, it's free.
What is up with that bowling business?
So there we go, the latest addition to the marvelous Spitfire Labs system or suite of sampled instruments. Yet again, something we didn't know we needed, but when you listen to it, that it's just nice. You just figure where you're going to use that, and particularly you, Ken. I thought of you when you got this because you do like your ethereal, ambient kind of stuff, your otherworldly stuff, and I just thought this would be right up your alley.
Yeah, I must admit that when I watched the video, I went, bloody hell, I've got David Lynch in. But yeah, no, it's all right. And of course, the bottom line is it's free.
Yes.
So there's absolutely zero things wrong with this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because of it,
Yeah.
No, it's
very,
it's good. It is good. Yeah.
Very nice. Gentlemen, down on the bottom row, any thoughts from you?
Richard.
Pardon?
After you, Richard.
Well, it makes me think of bowling, actually. I can't understand.
What was that reference?
Sure why.
Yeah.
No, actually, first of all, I love the Lab series, and I tend to download all of it, and I hardly used any of it, but I know there'll come a day where I'll be glad I've got it.
Yeah.
And it's just taken up a little bit of disk space because they're not that giant, those libraries.
Although this one is about 836 meg.
Yeah, well, you might get some size to them. And this thing, the fact that it's entirely created from an Arco or from an upright string bass is a fantastic thing to me. And I'm hoping that there's enough of a range of articulations as to make it usable in a number of circumstances. But even just what they showed us is ethereal and odd and cool. And I liked it. Yeah. And I often do with them. They do a really great job of making sample sets, these people, and making them playable. Yeah, so I'm happy that
they always make something that doesn't kind of exist, or maybe does exist in some rather large, bloated, elaborate library. This is just nice, simple, useful, interesting things that I think are quite inspiring as well. Andrew.
Wow.
There you go. Oh, he's always got to whack his thing out, hasn't he?
I'm going to get that thing out. So, Kent.
Darling.
Can we just cut to you and see your lovely self in your studio? So look at all those knobs and buttons. Look at all those knobs and buttons, right?
Right.
We got into this kind of as synthesists because we loved playing with sound and contriving sound and thinking of something or hearing something and inventing it and creating it. So I have deep admiration for Spitfire, and I think because it's free, I don't have a problem with it at all. But honestly, taking the harmonics of a double bass and then pitch shifting them to make them fit into a different, it's kind of that's what I do anyway. I use a handful of knobs and samples and things, and I twist and distort to come up with something ethereal. I get it. I do get it, and I know for some people it's going to be a place where they start, and that's great. We each of us work in a different way, but I just find it odd that when we've got all this wonder. I mean, you can't see my hardware, all the hardware here, because I've got loads of it in the studio and stuff. But some of the joy for me is putting together a part and then playing around with the sound to make it sit, or coming up with the sound and then doing it. You're getting inspired by something and creating from scratch with what I already have. With the effects I have and with the envelopes and the articulations I can build into it to play in a particular way. So I'm kind of, I get it. I think it's very good. I think it's free, and that's a great place. Yeah. I don't think I'd ever use it. I can't see why I'd use it when I get so much personally pleasure and creative flow from creating my own. If I want something ethereal, I'll go and create something ethereal. I'll start with what I already have and come up with something, because I'm feeling like my hair looks.
Indeed.
But that's my view. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just I don't think it's particularly for me. But I love generally their libraries. I really do.
Yeah, they are very good. And I think Ian pointed out in the chat, they're up to about 50 libraries now, 53 libraries of all sorts of different things, from guitars to pianos to string sections to choirs to London underground, or London kind of found sounds, and it's just amazing stuff. And like you say, free. I mean, I say this every time. My son sits in his room there with an old computer because his dad's too tight to buy him a new one, and he's got at his fingertips a massive library of really cool sounds. And it sounds, not pictures. Okay, good. Not video. No.
Right,
well,
okay.
I don't know. Oh, you made me think now. I should check. Or maybe I don't want. Oh, I don't know.
Lead by example.
Indeed, yes. So what are you trying to say?
Does he subscribe anally? I don't know. It's something that occurred. Someone mentioned it earlier. I don't know.
Yeah.
Nice car, Robbie.
Yeah, let's move on. This is not going the way I wanted to go. A new controller. Let's talk about a brand new controller from the team at Novation. This is what is known as, let's get rid of that, it's the Novation Launchkey 88, a premium 88-note MIDI keyboard for expressive music creation. It looks a very nice slim thing. I'm not entirely sure what the action is like on that, but it's got a lovely range of faders, transport controls, LED backlit pads, and all sorts of things. Again, not entirely sure about the positioning of the pitch bend and mod wheels. I don't mind them being above the keyboard as long as they're to the left of the keyboard. I'm not entirely sure I'd like them shifted over, but I can kind of see why they've done that.
They've probably done it so they can have the shorter keyboard. It's the circuit board's already printed.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So they probably
not only
borrowed.
that, nobody wants to reach all that way for a pitch and mod wheel. There's no pitch.
Who do that? Who do that?
True. It's only $379.99, which I thought was an incredibly good price for an 88-note semi-weighted. I mean, it's not a full hammer action thing, but $379.99 with that kind of brand and build quality behind it is not a bad thing. I've got an 88-note controller. It's an old KX88. I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world. But I can imagine that somebody who wants to take an 88 note out on the road, this is going to be quite a useful thing. Let's talk to our resident gigging musician, Mr. Richard Hilton. Is this? I know you'd certainly prefer your Rolands, but would this maybe suffice if one of those wasn't available from the local rental store?
No.
And
this might surprise people, but I have no interest in an unweighted 88-note keyboard.
Hurrah!
Yeah.
Because the only thing I need 88 notes for is if I happen to be playing a piano sound and I need something out here, as I break the lamp that's sitting there. In other words, there's so little that takes place in the octaves at either end of any given piano keyboard, including piano sounds, that 88 notes. The only reason I take 88-note keyboards now is because they are weighted and feel like what I want them to feel like. If they made 76 or 72-note keyboards that felt like that, I'd be fine. And my TS12 was one of those, actually, back in the day. Yeah. So I don't quite understand the market position for an 88-note, not hammer action weighted keyboard. I would be quite happy to own the 61-note version of this Novation product. And I actually don't think it's a bad idea to put the wheels where they did, because the kinds of things you play wheels on are not typically played.
Very true.
Like a piano. You know what I mean? So it's just less of a reach. It's like, where do you put your mouse pad? Or how wide is your keyboard? It's that kind of a decision. I don't really mind moving the wheels once they're not at the actual end of the keyboard parallel to it, or consistent to it. Once they're going to be above anyway, sure, make them closer. Why not? You got nothing there anyway. And as Andrew points out, it'll make it easier to make circuit boards for the subsequent models, which will have fewer keys.
Yeah.
So, not a bad product. I'm not sure I understand the positioning of it, but do I want one? No.
No, fair enough. What is interesting, and forget who pointed this out in the chat. Please do forgive me. You'll know who you are when I say this. Kosh Takai, actually. Yes, Kosh Takai points out there doesn't appear to be any aftertouch on the keys. However, there are 16 velocity sensitive pads have polyphonic aftertouch. So it's just, you take away the aftertouch from the keyboard and you give it poly aftertouch on the pads. Just, yeah.
Why?
So you're saying it's a fancy Ableton push?
Well, it could be. It could be.
But why?
Yeah, I don't know. That's an odd one. That is an odd one. Especially in this world we live in, where everybody is throwing polyphonic aftertouch onto everything. And aftertouch is enjoying a bit of a renaissance, thankfully.
Hurrah.
Yeah, but they're not putting it on the keyboard, but they're putting poly aftertouch on the pads. I guess, I don't know, maybe it's just we're the wrong target market for that sort of thing. I don't know.
Yes, Steve, elbows. I agree. This isn't the first one. I think the Roland Phantom that I had to use in Bogota as a rental had aftertouch sensitive drum pads that could also be used for other things. In my case, I was using them to select patches. But
doesn't the Hydrasynth desktop also have poly aftertouch pads? Yeah. So okay. Well, maybe that's the thing. It's just odd that they left it off the keyboard itself. I just thought that would have been a nice thing. Kent, thoughts?
I know what this machine is going to. I know I can, in my mind, I can sense how heavy it is, what it's going to be like to play, and it's going to be very similar to the 88-note Nectar keyboard.
Right.
Yes, it's got all the controls and everything else on the front. This is basically, like one of those little 49-note jobbies, but except this one didn't know where to shut up and just kept going, just adding notes to it. It's sort of like, well, let's make an 88-note one. That there's no reason for this to exist.
It does seem like it does seem like it's at odds in terms of its feature set. Isn't what you would expect a target market of an 88-note controller. Yeah.
Because if you want 88 notes, you're going to want it for two reasons. One, you want to be able to do piano, whether it be electric or whether it be acoustic piano, and you want to be able to blah, 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 blah. And having a non-hammer can be done. That's not impossible. It can be done. But I know how light, I can feel in my bones how light that keyboard's actually going to be. Yeah. The other thing is if you're going to be using sample libraries where you need to be able to get down to the triggering, it's gone right out my head. The mapping for key switching.
The macros at the bottom.
Either at the bottom or if it's Symphobia up the top and stuff, and you need that 88. And having a light touch keyboard for that, yes, it's an adaptation, but yes, it's good. So it doesn't seem to fall into any particular world comfortably.
No.
And it's sort of like floating around in the middle going, who am I? Yeah. Do I know where I live? Kind of
very true
vibe from it.
Comes bundled with a nice, as you'd expect, a nice range of software, including Ableton Live Lite and some Spitfire Lab stuff and Clev Grand stuff. But it just seems
I'd recommend getting the Complete Control 88 second hand or the old Mark One and do that, and then you're going to get the hammer action. You're not going to get poly aftertouch pads or anything, but it'll do everything else that's doing.
It's funny because my son's got an original Akai MPK88. When they first started doing those controllers, and I had a 49, and then I managed to find an 88-note version, and that's got full hammer action, and yet it's also got MPC style pads, and it's got little fader banks and controls, and that seemed to be more you could see somebody who wanted a decent hammer action keyboard wanting that, and then also somebody else who was doing maybe less of that and doing more kind of Ableton Live type productions. But this seems to tick some boxes here and some boxes there, but not all of the boxes there or all of the boxes here. It seems like it lacks focus, lacks a point.
Well, that's why I said I don't know if there's a market for this product. Maybe there is, and I don't know about it. I'm not it. That much I do know. But there may be people who are wishing for those extra octaves on their non-hammer action keyboard.
Yeah, we're just not down with the kids. That's what it is, I think. What do you think,
I'm with the Ute.
Okay, you're down with this.
I know. I'm with Richard and Kent on this. I can't see the market for it. I get it. You know, it's a very good price, but a keyboard without aftertouch. I can't imagine why I would want to buy that unless it was hammer. If it was hammer action, I'd be fine with that. You know, because then I can play piano, or I can play Hammond, or whatever. You know, I can play organ pieces, but it needs to be a weighted hammer action. So, and the whole thing of, you know, Kent was saying that, you know, with the extended range, you can use the triggers at the bottom to swap mappings and God knows what else, and trigger samples, and, you know, do whatever. That's what the pads are for, surely. So, and they're closer. So with a smaller, more compact thing, you have access to all of that straight away. You know, it's a much easier performance thing. Yeah. So I don't get it. I don't get it at all. And I can only imagine, like Ken, I can feel exactly how that would play. Yeah. And I don't want it in my life.
No, fair enough. Well, it's $379.99. It's available from novationmusic.com. It's available now. And from other good retailers, I am sure. Talking of other things that maybe we don't need in our life but do now exist, or certainly will exist very shortly. This is being debuted at NAMM next week, and it's a new analog synth, but it's an analog synth with a difference, and there's not a huge amount of extra information over and above this demonstration video. So I'm just going to play this and see what we think of this. Motorized rotaries. Now, whilst that looks very, very cool, I will admit, do we need a synthesizer with motorized rotary controls? Do we need a synthesizer with motorized controls, whether they're rotaries or not? I don't know. Yeah. Do we?
Yeah, because then I get to repair them and I can buy a new car.
That's what I was going to say. Kent's now sorted out. If people buy that, Kent's now sorted out until he decides to not do it
eventually
anymore.
Retire. Yeah, I mean this is a new synth from it's called Nina, and it's from a company called Tonelab. They're based in Australia, so I'm hoping that Rands can do something on his show and get these people on there to tell us a bit more about it. But it is odd, isn't it?
Well, I can see the point of it because the knobs become directly connected to the thing that they're controlling, and they always reflect the current value.
The current state.
Yeah.
But does it make any noise? What do you have to go through to get those darn knobs to turn? Do you need? I get the question about do you need this because we've never had it, but I understand why it's desirable, because what's frustrating about grabbing a virtual like filter cutoff knob on a program is that it's nowhere physically near where it was when the program was saved. So this there's a part of me that thinks this makes sense, but I also kind of think it's got to be noisy and power consuming, and it's got, you know, so I'd have to see it in action. But and by the way, I hope it sounds better than that.
Yes, well, I think it's still, you know, sort of fairly early days, but they are supposed to be debuting this at NAMM next week, so it'll be interesting to see. But there's no other information about this other than it's a 12-voice poly-analog synth with motorized knobs. That is it.
I like the idea of it. You know, I got into all of this because I like knobs and lights and flashy whizzy things, and I thought flying faders was the best thing since sliced bread.
Absolutely.
And I loved the mini Moog because I could glance across at it at any point, and I know what sound's about to come out before I hit it. I can just play with the knobs, and I know what the sound is going to be. So that side of it, getting that visual feedback of a signal path and saying, okay, I can see what this is about. I just wonder. I mean, I wonder. Like Richard, I wonder if it's going to be noisy. I wonder how reliable it will be. And there are already things out there which essentially have a light an LED thing, which with continuous knobs, and so it just, I think the Roland's one of the Roland Sister 8 or something does that, where it's got the light in the place where it, and no matter which knob you touch, when you pick it up, it picks it up from there because it's continuous. So that function's kind of already there. I'd need to see it, and I want to hear what it sounds like. But the idea of anything moving, it's cool. But I'm not.
Yeah.
But we're talking about how it automates rather than whether or not, as a synthesizer, it's any good.
Yeah.
Well, one of those motors is going to fail at some point. Just one motor, right? But I can tell you now, every single knob will have to be removed. The entire board has to come out to change that pot if they're easily available. It might be sitting on my shelf in my workshop for like 8 weeks while we wait for the new part to arrive.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. The more you put in, the more it's going to go wrong.
Yeah. It just seems... everyone's got to have their gimmick, I suppose. It just seems like an odd gimmick, this one. And I've never heard anybody say, "Oh, I wish my synthesizer had motorized controls so I could..." Because...
I have.
Have you? Well,
yeah. I have.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So
Here's the thing, though. That was a lot of knobs that all moving at the same time, yeah?
Yes.
What I'd like to see him do is try to turn one of the knobs that had already was travelling in a different direction at the time that he turns it.
Yeah.
Where does it pick up and how does it work? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that mixer, the Yami one you got on the floor.
The O2R, yeah.
Yeah. When you try moving that slider when it's trying to move it in the opposite direction and the teeth come off the belt.
Yeah.
And then the bugger don't work anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. No.
Well, in those kinds of motorized fader systems, as you probably know, there is some form of capacitance recognition where it stops moving when you touch it. You follow? There are various modes you can use it in, but one of them is if it's moving towards you, and when you lay your fingers on it, it will stop, and it expects that at the point where your hand goes on the control that you're about to control with it.
But then at that point, does it then jump to the value that it was going to get to, or does it jump to the value you've now stopped it at because it's not finished its point of travel? All of those are really that's a pain to work out.
And it was back in the console automation days. There were different kinds of ways to update things that were motorized and moving, and there were ways that they were designed to recognize when they were being touched so that they would not present resistance that would cause the kind of thing that Kent was describing.
I was just thinking of Total Recall, Richard, and having to recall a mix across a 72-channel board, and you're doing these tiny things until it, dink, that's it, dink, 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 and it never sounded the same. It never, everything lined up, and it seemed to work, but it was never quite the same.
But that's okay because it's not the same day. We're not the same. We're not the same people as we were yesterday or when we shut that mix down last. I know people get all focused on the rough mix love and the tape they took home and what it sounded like in the car. But I'm not romantic that way. And I think we can do better today. And I don't care what that sounded.
Are you a fan? I'm a great fan of grabbing handfuls of faders and or knobs and whatever and just going, let's start from scratch. We know it works. Let's just pull it down and start again. Just see what we get, because you end up with it. If it's working already, it's going to work, And there's something about pulling the board down flat and just starting again. There's something rather lovely about that.
Well, it's kind of megalomaniacal in these days where it's hard to get a good fader under your hands anyway. You've got 72 of them in front of you, and you can just go like this.
But that was always good because you could see what was going on, But then you could always see what was going on before flying faders because the faders were where they were. They just never got back to that point, So, yeah. Horses for courses.
I'd be interested to know what the synth actually is and does.
Yeah.
Well, we'll find out.
The video did not focus on any of that at all, did it?
No. Well, they've got their gimmick, and that's what they're leading with. And I guess we'll find that next week at NAMM.
I'm not sure that's fair to call it a gimmick.
Well, yeah. I use that term, it's their unique selling point.
This is no BB beam to me.
They're focused.
They're shtick.
Their shtick, yeah.
Their service manual for Kent.
Indeed, yes. If you want to learn more about that, they don't have a website listed, but they are on. Yeah, they're on Instagram and Facebook, of course, at tonelab.tv. Whether that's linked to a website that will probably appear next week, I don't know. But watch NAMM footage and coverage. Of course, our friends at Sonic State will be doing plenty of that. So tune in to see what's going on there. Yeah, there you go. That's the Nina from Tonelab TV or Tonelab.tv. Looking forward to seeing if it's more than just a bunch of flash faders. Right, what have we got next? Ah, yes. Now, hands up who owns a Moog One in the room. Does anybody have a Moog One? No.
I know somebody who owns one.
I know somebody who owns one.
Have they got it to work yet?
Yes, well, it seems to be a lot of those who love it really, really love it, and those that don't really don't. It's a very Marmite synth. But apparently, Moog have just announced yesterday they announced a new firmware that is destined to address a whole bunch of the issues that people have had with the Moog One over the years, tuning notably being one of them. So it's the Moog One version 1.5 firmware. It's a major update available now to all Moog One users. It expands the Moog One's CV input-output capabilities. It also introduces new user-accessible tuning, because before you had to go into like some service mode. Voice card and system calibrations, as well as bug fixes and feature improvements. It also features a whole bunch of presets from our very dear friend and wonderful synthesist Lisa Belladonna. 25 new presets that she's put into that there. And I'm hearing they're very good. I haven't heard any demonstrations yet, but I'm told that they are very... Should we... Let's listen to one, shall we? By the way, I say this every time we have the Moog website on here. I do not like this sideways scrolling. I'm sorry. It just... Because then you get all this stuff and it's like, oh, what's that? Yeah. So let's have a listen to one of these presets. Go on. That's not even working.
Did you pay your subscription?
Did I? Do I have to turn my head?
Yeah.
At a jaunty angle? They're not working. Oh, well, that fell flat on its face, didn't it? Oh, well, never mind. We shan't listen to those demos, but you could go and listen to them at a later date.
Checks in the post.
Indeed. So, Moog have finally addressed... I mean, this is... None of us here own a Moog One, so we can't speak about this from experience. However, there has been a lot of flack thrown at this instrument. It arrived with a massive fanfare, a multi-polyphonic, so 8 or 16, depending on which version you bought, of a Moog polysynth, which we hadn't had for a long, long time. And then it just ran into all sorts of problems with tuning and overheating. A friend of mine who's got one says it literally creaks as it gets hot. The whole thing starts to warp, and you can hear the wood creaking.
It's all part of the authenticity.
All part of that analog authenticity with the wood. Yeah. I mean, it should be an absolutely brilliant thing, but who knows? I mean, what do you think? Any thoughts on this? Is it too late to rescue the Moog One's reputation with this new firmware update?
Oh, they've ruined it now.
You think?
Yeah, it was clearly based on the memory Moog, and now they made it all in tune and reliable. Buggered it. That's it. It's not a memory Moog anymore, is it? It's like, no man. Because a lot of people say, oh yeah, no, it's not actually based on the memory Moog. I mean, have you seen one?
Yeah.
The LEDs are the same, for God's sake.
It's
a lovely sounding machine. It really is. But I'm wondering if, like 10 years or so down the road from now, you go, oh, do you know what? I used to love my Moog One when I had the old version of the software. It was more real, more analog, because it was like drifty and everything. But I didn't like it when we did the 1.5 on it. So and I imagine there'll be a lot of that.
It's odd, isn't it? Because the Moog have a history of analog synthesis, and they're really good at it. Really, really good at it. They make some great stuff. And this came out with essentially firmware with a computer in the back of it. And, that's what everyone else has done. But Moog never have. And it felt from after it launched, I was expecting great things of it. I don't think I'd have bought it, but I was expecting great things of it. And then all these issues arose. And I just thought, that's stuff which should have been picked up in development, and it's clearly an analog manufacturer that hasn't understood what is required to make the digital side work. And I don't want to say digital because it's digital control and whatever, but it's an odd one. I think it will probably have made it a lot better. I think it's come a bit late. Usually what happens in these kinds of cases with other instrument manufacturers when it's happened in the dim and distant is they will take it on the chin, understand that the people that have got it will now have something that works, and then they'll release another version which is probably on a better set of processors, probably with a better motherboard, and has a lot more thought gone into the design of the digital side. So I expect them to release another something. It is probably what will happen. But I love the sound of it. I do, when it's working.
Yeah,
I love the sound of it. It's a great sound. It's like so many of these things.
Yeah, I thought it was a beautiful sound. I had one here about 3-4 months ago, and I had a little extra long session on it. Took ages to put that knob back on, and I was playing it, and it's lovely. It is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really, really lovely poly synth. If they can shave about 50% off the price, I would definitely, I don't know, maybe one will turn up and got reverb that got
They
dropped
could
out
do
of
a
a
deal
window.
with Behringer.
Oh,
they're actually, thanks to, I think it was Steve Elbows pointing out that they do have a SoundCloud page. I don't know, you can hear this, yeah?
yeah.
So here you go. This is some of Lisa's presets, which they do sound very, very nice. Gotta say, I mean, it does sound incredible.
You'll hear that in the next Hands movie.
Yeah, it does have.
It's got that sound, but I mean that not facetiously. It's got that sound that we know Hans loves analog stuff. He's got a lot of it, as well as everything else. And again, it's about the articulation and or analog is organic. It feels organic. The flaws are what makes it work. And so I get it. It does sound like a lovely thing, and in fact, now you've played that to me again, I may be revising my. I'm not going to buy that.
No.
Well, it's a nice piece of kit. It is.
Yeah.
Well, everyone that I know that's got one, there's not many people I know. There's 2 or 3. They've all said it's an incredible machine, and it sounds amazing. It's slightly flawed, but then aren't all of these kind of big marquee type follies that some of the manufacturers come up with, and it will get it seems like they're ironing the problems out, but those people that have invested, I mean, what were they like? Was it $8,000 for the biggest one?
Yeah.
The 16 voice, and about 5 or 6 for the 8 voice.
It was 7.9 something, 799 for the 16.
It's a lot of money to have waited this long for them to kind of get parts of it right, particularly the tuning. Our friend Simon did a video some while back of him trying to tune his Moog One using the built-in service menu system, and it took hours. I think he left it going overnight, and when he came back to it and it said tuning all complete, plays the keys, it's out of tune. So
should have opened it up.
Yeah, well, there were clearly issues there, but they seem to have addressed them now. But There you go. So that's the Moog One update, available free to all Moog One users from the Moog website directly. Talking of brilliant analog synthesizers, of course, we had the launch of the OBX8 just the other day, and I think everyone can agree that it sounds amazing, and it's just absolutely fantastic to have Mr. Oberheim back in the game. This came up on my feed about 5 minutes before we came on air, and I just had to share this with you because I love this. I do love this OBX8 synthesizer. I'm very interested in it, but I also love the man that we're about to see play it, the legend that is Jimmy Jam.
Jimmy Jam.
Jimmy Jam here. Just
have
at
a
the
listen
studio,
to this.
Experimenting with this brand new, beautiful OBX8. And it's cool because it's all the sounds from the OBX, from the OBSX, the OBXA, and the OB8 all in one keyboard. This is absolutely beautiful. So one of the sounds everybody knows was Oberheim is "What Have You Done For Me Lately?" But people always ask me, they go, it's a bass line, right? It's a bass part. It's actually not. It's actually called steel drums. But when you play it like this,
There it is. It's just, there it is.
magic Oberheim.
Now, I hope we don't get copyright struck for that, because I love moments like that. I'm a huge fan of discovering the original patches that we used on the records that I grew up with and learned to love. So to hear him come up with that patch on the Ober, when he played it, I thought, what's he doing? That doesn't sound familiar. And then he plays the bass line, and then he plays the chords. There it is. That's the money shot right there. And yeah, just brilliant. Was that the system that Dave had? Oh, hello. he's got his tissues ready. Absolutely.
I say.
Because Dave had the one that they had at Super Booth. They sent it to Mr. Spears, and I seem to remember he'd say he'd got it for a few days, and he'd got to send it somewhere else. And I do seem to recall he mentioned Jimmy, and so that must be it there. It's certainly doing the rounds at the moment. But isn't it great to get it under the hands of people that use those originals? What a shame Prince isn't alive to. Not that he would do a gear demo, but that would be amazing.
Then again, he might. You know what he's like.
Wow.
He was like. He was. I like Prince. I liked him a lot. He was a very talented man.
What a
Great
legend.
lot.
And
And
also
talking of losses, Rob,
Mm.
we've had a few this week.
Have we? Yes.
Gosh, yes.
Oh, we have. Yes. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
Fletch.
We talked. At the beginning of the show, we talked about Fletcher, and of course, it's been Alan White, and of course, Vangelis last week, which we spoke about.
White,
It's just it's not great. But back to happier things. The OBX8. You guys, anyone getting it before they pop their clogs?
The OBX8.
Yes.
I'm really tempted. I am actually really tempted. I'm really tempted. Tom's an extraordinary man. There's a few of them. Tom, Dave Smith, Dave used to be my boss at EMU, Rossum. They're extraordinary people, and when Tom's built something, it's going to have that quality about it. And I think, as opposed to other versions of this and whatever, just know it's gonna. You're going to be able to gig it, and there's that sound. There is that particular sound with an Oberheim, and the way you interact with it, and the size of it, and where everything's laid out. I'm really tempted. It was one of my favourite instruments. The whole OB range was the basis of an awful lot of the stuff I did in the early days in studios. So yeah, I'm really tempted with that. Really tempted.
Rich, you were nodding there. This is on your shopping list.
Not well. It's in my dream list. Let's see if I can make it come to pass.
Cool.
Let's see if Kent's controller is worth what he says it is. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know exactly how, when, or why I would own this thing, but I would love to own one of these things. And it's fun because there's been a couple of synths now in the last 5 years or so that I wouldn't mind owning, and it's been decades since I wanted to own a synthesizer. So this is one of them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Kent, is this on your shopping list? He nods slowly.
Yes, because I think the controller I invented is worth that much. And I'll sell the one I got in the garage as well.
Nice.
Although I must admit, I did say to Fiona I said, "Oh, look at this! Listen to this! Listen to this!" And she's listening to it and going, "Oh, that sounds really lovely. Yeah, that is nice." I said, "I've got to get one of these." She goes, "How much is it?" I said, $5. She's going, "Oh, that's less than I thought it would be." There you go.
There you go. Your permissions are granted. There it is, right there.
Yes.
But what a time to be alive!
Fiona.
I mean, we've been, haven't we, for many years been banging on? Oh, I wish we could get a proper Oberheim. I wish we could get a proper Prophet 5, and now we have them.
Yes.
Well, now's the time to sell your old one.
Indeed.
Yeah,
If I had
exactly.
The market's
I
going to
agree.
be full of them.
Yeah.
It
Then
will.
some.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the price will go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watching the Marcus Ryle demo that Nick captured
Yes.
at Super Booth on this thing was just a stunning display of genius on the part of Marcus in particular, more than Nick. But I mean, he's been around for the entire history of the development of these instruments and is the perfect person to explain to you how this thing not only embodies all 3 or 4 of them, but cross integrates features over sounds. So you can do things with a OBX sound that wasn't available until OB8 modulation law and things like that. It's such an advancement over. If I owned one of the old ones, I'd sell it and buy this.
Yeah.
I think what's also really interesting is the advent of some new controllers that have suddenly made a step change in the way these instruments can be used. So something like this new OBX8 with something like the Neova wearable MIDI ring controller.
Yeah.
I love that. I love it. It adds another dimension to the whole performance and articulation of stuff. It really, really does. So getting these things back under MIDI control, under whatever control, with the current build quality that's available from the original makers of these things, we're beginning to get into heavenly stuff again. I'm just waiting now for Yamaha to bring out CS80.
Well, I was going to say, all we
way.
need now is a genuine analog Jupiter 8 from Roland and a CS80 from Yamaha. We might have all of those lovely synths, but in modern form that we've been dreaming about. But that's certainly the Roland won't happen. We know that.
Yeah, but if it did, could we then leave it and move on?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Please, can we have new stuff now?
That's what needs to happen. We need to draw a line under it. So let's get it out of our system. But I don't see it.
The one thing that OBX8 won't suffer from is that usual background noise that you will get from any piece of software or any clone of, but does it sound the same as the original? And no, I'd rather have the original. Technically, you're getting all of the originals with chocolate, double cream, and Cadbury's buttons all on it as well. You're getting the whole bloody show.
Yeah.
And he doesn't none of that sort of like, does it? It's not the original. Yeah, it is. Move on.
Yeah. Exactly, because it's the original and more, and that's what you should be doing.
And the thing is, the originals worked. The originals became so iconic because the design on them was so good to start with.
Yeah.
They used technology that was barely able to support. The tuning was flying all over the place. The circuits, the electronics were barely holding the thing together. Often, the early ARPs and all those kinds of the ARP 2500, which I adore, but freaking hell.
Yeah.
Now that things have moved on, you can do that again, still analog, but with the original. There's better tolerances, better ways of doing this. It's kind of the design worked, and it's like a Steinway 9-foot grand. It's a 9-foot concert grand by Steinway. The C is still a wonderful, wonderful instrument. And it remains that way because the way it was made, the way it plays, you can have sample libraries and whatever, but the original piano and the original Hammond B3 and the clavinet, the D4, whatever, all of those things work because in and of themselves, they had a way of working which was tactile and had a way of you doing stuff that worked. It led to a certain way of playing and doing things and articulating, and that's the case with these. Yeah. That doesn't mean that there shouldn't be other synths. I think the Hydra synth is a really good example of the next generation of stuff. It's one of the first ones that's come out for yonks that I really, 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 really want. I'm still waiting for mine, by the way. But it's one of those that I get, and it reminds me of the 80. The CS80, it does.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I think,
but it's it's that new tech.
Yeah. Comment of the week goes to Rosgray 801. If you're prevaricating over buying one, why not just go ahead and jump?
Fine, Ros. Send us the money. We send each of us, several £1,000s. That'd be lovely. £5 to each of our accounts. Thank you.
Indeed. There we go. And, of course, we must say thank you to Andrew Brooks, who wants his KX88. Honestly, mate, give it up. Look, I'll leave it to you in my will. There you go.
I've got mine.
I don't have a will.
I've got mine.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got an SL. I'm happy.
Yeah. But thank you for the payment anyway. It's not going to make any difference to the availability of that for you, but there you go. We've got 5 minutes. Let's do this last thing here. This was funny. This was brought to my attention last night. Mm-hmm. I genuinely thought for a split second that this was real. Well, let's just have a watch, shall we?
Oh, I know what you're going to show.
This is TX1 from Teenage Engineering, the world's smallest single knob pro audio mixer and ultra portable stereo USB audio interface. The unit is made out of aluminum and it has a single stereo input jack. It weighs 29 grams or 1 ounce and it has a solid feel. On the side, it has a USB Type-C port for multi-channel audio recording, MIDI control, firmware updates, and charging. It has one stereo input, but unlimited outputs when using the USB port to an audio workstation. Turn it on by flipping the power switch on the bottom. The TX1 by Teenage Engineering.
And I would just like to point out there, it does say at the bottom, this is a parody. But a very, very good one. It had, honestly, I think we've got to that point now with Teenage Engineering that when we see something like this, as ridiculous as it might seem, we think, have they? I wasn't quite sure. I genuinely thought, they've come out with something new and it's just ridiculously small and they're really trolling us now. But no, that was a very clever parody. All rights reserved, of course, with all of that imagery. But the user is Decimal1 on YouTube. Congratulations for giving us a little chortle at the end of the week. We shan't go into the whole teenage. I think we spoke about it the other week about the new OP1 field and how much it cost and all this kind of stuff. But I think that was quite an amusing little thing to round up the show, because we are at the end of the show, and I would just like to say thank you to everyone. We started this show thinking, we haven't got anybody to come on. It's just going to be me and Kent. This is going to be rather boring. And then we were joined by the wonderful Mr. Richard Hilton. Thank you ever so much for joining us from your hotel room in London. Where are you off to next?
Oslo, Norway.
Oslo.
Tomorrow we'll play a show there, I think, on Sunday. Mm-hmm. Not in Oslo, but at some festival somewhere. Not far. I'd have to look. And actually, I believe we're playing with Duran Duran in Oslo.
Oh, cool.
I'm furiously dialing in the information. So we're playing at something called Sommerstemning, which I assume has something to do with the idea of summer. But in any case, we're playing on Sunday there, and then we're playing on Wednesday in Estonia, and Thursday in Helsinki, Finland.
So you go from Norway to Estonia and then back to Helsinki. Wow, that's
so it's the NATO tour.
Pardon?
It's the NATO tour.
Yeah, and then we end up in Stockholm. We'll make our way to Brussels later in the summer.
Do some peacekeeping, yeah, why not?
Oslo is one of my favourite airports to fly into. It's a beautiful landing. Coming in over the lakes, the sea. It's a wonderful, wonderful landing.
I only flew out of Oslo once. I went on a business trip to Scandinavia, and I had to go to Sweden, Oslo, and Copenhagen in 1 week. So I flew into Gothenburg, did my stuff there, got the train from Gothenburg to Oslo, which I highly recommend to anyone. It's like 10 quid. It's about 4.5 hours long, but it's some of the most beautiful scenery you could ever imagine. You're going along some of the edges of some of the fjords. It's just incredible. And you get into Oslo, which is an incredible city. Just make sure you don't book yourself into the wrong hotel. My booking agent booked me into, let's just say, we'll call it the Holiday Inn. And I looked on the map, and the Holiday Inn was right across the street from the railway station. I thought, absolutely fantastic. I walked into the reception, and I said, I've got a room here for a couple of nights. Gave them my name, and they looked at me and said, no, you don't have a room here tonight. I'm like, oh, really? I said, can you check my thing? And I gave them the booking slip. Oh, no, that's the Holiday Inn Express, which is on the other side of town. And he said, oh, you can walk it. You can walk it in like 5 minutes. I'm like, I've got suitcase, laptops and everything. It took me about 3/4 of an hour to find this place. I was absolutely knackered. But I got there. I found my hotel. I got up to my room. The room is a tiny little box, and it has what we call a patio door. So it's, like a proper full-size glass door. And it opened, and I was on the 6th floor. And there is no balcony, there is no ledge, there is nothing to stop you from just stepping out and onto the pavement. It's just very strange, but lovely, lovely place. But then I only flew out of Oslo Airport, and it's a very nice little airport.
At least you didn't go to Amsterdam and end up booking into the Viking Hotel.
Oh.
Spam.
No, I did.
Wow.
I did. I didn't realise that this was many years back. I didn't realise it was catering for a certain, shall we say, male-dominated clientele.
Okay, lots of leather and moustaches.
Yeah, they were very friendly.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And lots of spam.
I used to fly into Amsterdam a lot because it's like a hub, so we can go from lots of different places. I can fly out from Norwich. It takes half an hour to get there. But all the flights from Norwich all land on because it's got 5 runways at Schiphol, and it lands on the furthest one away. And I'd had a couple of beers before I got on the flight. I was busting. And they wouldn't let me use the toilet after we'd landed. You've got to stay in your seat until you reach the terminal. My goodness, that was a run and a half. But yes, anyway, we digress. Richard, enjoy Oslo, enjoy Tallinn, enjoy Sweden, and wherever else you're going. You're going to be here in Hyde Park again, and UK is kind of going to be your hub for a little while. So maybe we'll see a little bit more of you. Fantastic stuff.
Who knows?
Thank you ever so
person.
much. And keep the funk going. We love it. We love what you do. And
keep on the black note. The black notes, they sound good. just a tip, professional tip.
And to our other, what should we call him? Surprise guest, our gorilla guest, shall we say? Guerrilla, not gorilla. Hey,
yeah.
What's this? The Penguin of Death. Okay.
Oh yes.
Yes, the Penguin of Death.
Very nice.
Okay. That's your gorilla guest.
Well, thank you. You've been on, 2 or 3 weeks ago? You come on again. You must like it here.
It's a good spot. I love these things. Yeah. Thank you for keeping us up to date with all the stuff that's going on in the world of Pro Synth. It's good. It's really useful.
No, good. Well, glad you enjoy it. And hopefully everyone else does too. But gentlemen, thank you ever so much for joining us at short notice and for being so learned and interactive and great entertainment. Thank you both. And of course, thank you to Kent up there or across there or down there, wherever he might be in the world, wearing a splendid hoodie there.
I'd like to speak to my lawyers. Copyright infringement. Yes, somebody's copying the format of my show. Yes, I can wait.
Oh, come on now, please.
No.
We're a little bit more civilised than it. No.
Yeah, true. You got title music and everything.
Titles, yeah.
Professional, this is.
And, yeah. Anything lined up for the weekend? Anything interesting passing under your hands?
No.
Fair enough.
No. I'll probably do a show after this, though.
Okay, well...
After dark one.
Okay, well, I probably won't be joining that one because there are things called Stranger Things and Obi-Wan Kenobi to catch up with, which my family are waiting downstairs for me as we speak. So I should be partaking of those. But wonderful to have you. Thank you very much. And also to Ben Simpson, who I don't know if he is still in the chat, but thank you, Ben, for your contributions as always. Get well soon, mate. We hope to have him back on here as soon as we possibly can. We're going to have the same thing next week because I deliberately kind of backed off the guests this week and next week because Ben wasn't here. And I don't like to have guests on without Ben because he really likes having guests on and like being around to ask them questions and stuff. But maybe we can do something again in this kind of mode where we just have some drop-in guests that come in and share their time with us. So that'll be great. But I do need to remind everyone that in a few weeks' time, we've got the guys from Sonicware coming on the show. We've got Evan and Chris to tell us all about the new sample trek, which hit its funding target and like 10 times more as well. So it's definitely going to production, coming out in September. Those guys are going to be coming on the show. We've also got Elliot Kennedy, who is a tip-top songwriter, has written many number one hit singles all around the world, and it is also the head judge of the UK jury for Eurovision. So we want to pick his brains about what happened a few weeks ago over in Turin. So we've got him coming up as well, and lots of other people coming up over the next few months. So thanks ever so much to everyone that's joined us today. Thank you to all of our chatties and our watchers and anyone that's watching on Catching Up. Thank you for coming back and joining us and seeing what it was all about. We will see you same time, same place next week. And until then, have a fantastic weekend. Of course, don't forget it's Memorial Day in the US on Monday, and over here in the UK, we've got a really long weekend next weekend because it's the Queen's Jubilee or something. Which of course, Rich is playing at the Jubilee. Or are you doing the Jubilee one? You're not, are you? No, that's fine. I think Niles is doing that one on his own, isn't he? Yeah. Cool. Brilliant. Have a fantastic weekend, everyone. Stay safe. Enjoy the weather. And we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.